Germany's political system is a fascinating puzzle, a mix of federal reforms, history, and EU influence. At its core is German federalism, splitting power between a strong national government and 16 unique states. Unlike the US, Germany leans heavily on its federal level, shaping everything from wealth sharing to strict spending rules. Understanding these pieces helps us see how Germany works as a modern federal state. After World War II, Germany lay in ruins, needing a fresh start. So, Germany's constitution created a federal system, inspired by the US. However, the federal government gained stronger authority. Despite this, the states enjoy some independence, while still following national laws. In Germany, the national government and the state governments work together closely. Think of it like a team. The states carry out decisions made by the national government, and they also have a say in making those decisions. They do this through a council called the Bundesrat. Over time, the national government has become more powerful, and the states have a little less control. While the system seems beneficial, it often leads to confusion, because Germany's federal system sometimes makes it unclear who is responsible for what: the national government or the states. A big problem is that both levels depend heavily on each other. This means they need to work together constantly to make decisions. Instead of each level clearly handling its own tasks, they end up needing to cooperate for almost everything. This constant need for cooperation has created a kind of third level of government, where states work together on national issues. For example, states have meetings to discuss education and culture, even though these are supposed to be things the states decide on. But this system has some drawbacks. It gives the national government more power and takes away some of the state's independence. More decisions are made by government officials instead of elected politicians in state parliaments. This is called administrative federalism, since officials, not the public, handle many decisions together. There is less transparency, making the system less balanced. This weakens the balance of power in the German system. The system aims to share power, but in reality, it can get confusing and make it hard for elected officials to make decisions. This can also make the national government too powerful. To address the imbalance of power between the national governments and the states, federal reforms were introduced in 2006 and 2009. Let's start with the 2006 federalism reform. The goal of the 2006 federalism reform was to improve decision-making for both the national government and the states, while making the division of political powers clearer. The reform also tried to limit the power of the Bundesrat to block national laws. However, this didn't significantly change how often laws were blocked. This reform focused on improving how states are funded. The goal was to make them more financially independent. However, the global financial crisis shifted the focus. The national government gained more power to control state finances in emergencies, which critics argued reduced state control. The reform also introduced a debt brake rule, forcing states to balance their budgets. This limited their ability to spend money freely. While the intention was to create a better balance of power, the reforms actually gave the national government more control in certain areas. Germany's system for balancing money between its states, called the financial equalization, was created in the 1960s. The goal is simple: richer states help poorer ones to reduce differences in wealth and keep the country united. But after East and West Germany reunited in 1990, the system struggled. It wasn't designed to handle the huge costs of rebuilding East Germany, and globalization increased competition among states. A big reform in 2020 changed the rules. Instead of states sending money directly to each other, they now share money from sales taxes. The reform helped wealthy states, like Bavaria and Baden-Württemberg, pay less. But the reforms faced criticism. States already had limited control over their own money, and these changes made it harder for them to spend freely. While the reforms may have helped the richer states, they also gave the national government more power. This could make the states less independent and hurt the balance of power between the national and state governments. Germany's political system has changed over time. At first, most changes were because of things happening inside the country. But since the early 1990s, EU membership and closer political ties with Europe have also played an important role. One key connection to the EU is the debt brake. This rule helps control government spending and keeps the economy stable. It was introduced to support the euro and make sure EU countries manage their money well. Another important rule is Article 23 of the German Constitution, also called the Europe Article. It says that the federal government must inform the states about EU decisions and listen to their opinions if those decisions affect them. In 2006, Germany introduced a reform that allows a state representative to speak for Germany in the EU Council when decisions affect only the states. Even though German states have limited power in EU matters, the subsidiarity principle helps them. This principle says that decisions should be made as locally as possible. In Germany, this often means that many decisions should be made at the state level, not by the national government.